All right, let's get right into it. Have you ever wondered what makes one story stick with you forever while another one just feels kind of preachy? Today, we're going to unpack the secret sauce of authentic storytelling. It's what transforms a flat, boring message into a truth that feels alive. This quote, right here, it's a total paradox, and it gets right to the very heart of what makes a great story. The whole idea is that we use fiction, the lie, to get at something incredibly, profoundly true about who we are and how the world works. And here's the key thing to remember. Plot is just the stuff that happens. The truth is why it all matters. I mean, think about The Lion King. We're not just sad because Mufasa dies. That's just plot. We cry because Simba convinces himself it's his fault and runs away from everything. That deep, painful wound you carries, that's the truth. And that's what hooks into something real inside all of us. And this leads us straight into a huge trap that so many storytellers fall into. They get message and theme all mixed up. Now, they sound like they could be the same thing, but believe me, knowing the difference is what separates real, powerful art from, just propaganda. So let's break this down because it's so important. A message is when an author is forcing a conclusion on you. They're basically turning their characters into puppets just to prove their point. But a theme, that's different. A theme is what the story reveals all on its own, organically. It's like a mirror, reflecting some piece of our own humanity back at us, something we get to discover for ourselves as we go on the journey. It's earned, not preached. So here it is. This is the ultimate litmus test for any writer. Ask yourself this question. If the core idea of your story completely crumbles the second you entertain an opposing viewpoint, well, you haven't really built a story. You've just built yourself a soapbox. A really powerful theme, a real truth, is strong enough to stand up in a world that's messy and full of contradictions. Okay, so if we're not supposed to be preaching, what in the world are we supposed to write about? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple, but it's also kind of radical. You confess what's broken. See, truth isn't found in showing everyone how perfect things are. It's found in the cracks. Just think about this for a second. Which character is more interesting? A perfect pastor who has all the right answers all the time, or one who struggles, who loses his temper just like a real person? The truth of his struggle, that's where the real story is. Or what about this? A missionary who is wrestling with a genuine crisis of faith. That internal battle, that real, honest doubt, that is so much more powerful and relatable than someone with perfect, unshakable certainty. It's in the wrestling that we find the truth. And this all builds to the central principle we're talking about today. The stories that resonate the most, the ones that stick with us, are so often about characters who feel like they are the last person on earth who deserves grace or forgiveness, but then they find it anyway. That unexpected redemption, when it feels completely unearned, that delivers an emotional knockout punch. It speaks to a hope that's buried deep inside all of us. Here's a great way to picture all this. Think of your story like you're building a house. The truth you're exploring, that's the foundation. The whole thing rests on it. The structure is the frame holding it up. The plot? That's just the furniture you put inside. And that amazing element of grace we just talked about, that's the light shining in through the windows. See, without that solid foundation of truth, the whole house just falls apart. Now, let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just about one specific type of story. This applies to everything. The real power of any narrative comes from its deep, underlying worldview, not just the superficial labels or props you stick on. This framework suggests that a story's real identity comes from its worldview, not its props. Take a so-called Christian story. It's not defined by whether it has a cross or a pastor in it. No, it's defined by whether it exists in a moral universe that's actually grappling with the big questions: good and evil, sacrifice, and the chance for redemption. And the absolute perfect example of this, Les Miserables. I mean, it's not some niche faith-based story, but Jean Valjean's entire life journey is this incredible, profound exploration of law versus grace and what it truly means to be redeemed. And this line from the story, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? It reveals a deep spiritual truth without ever feeling like it's preaching. The theme is woven right into the DNA of the story, and it connects with something that goes way beyond labels. This is what we mean when we say, let the story do the work. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do we actually do it? Let's get practical. Here's a simple toolkit. 4 steps you can use right now to start writing from a place of truth instead of just preaching.
All right, here's your toolkit. First, show, don't tell. Let your characters' actions, especially under pressure, reveal what they truly believe. The theme is what happens when you finally shut up and let them act. Second, let the lie have its moment. Let the flawed opposing viewpoints sound compelling, sound right before you let the consequences of that lie unravel it. Third, earn that redemption. Grace can't be cheap. It has to cost the character something real, something significant. And finally, number 4, don't sell. Tell. Trust that if your story is true and powerful, it doesn't need a sales pitch.
So why does any of this really matter? Because storytelling isn't just a bit of fun. It's not just entertainment. It is a battle for the human imagination. And the stories we let into our minds, the ones we really believe, they have the power to shape what we want, who we admire, and ultimately, who we become. And that leaves us with this final, really powerful thought. In a world that is just full of noise, where everyone is shouting to be heard, the goal isn't to be the loudest person in the room. The goal is to be the most honest, the most compelling, the most true. You don't win that war for the imagination by shouting. You win it by telling a better story.